It's gonna be one of these days. There we go. There I am. The camera. The camera was. I don't even know what that was doing. But fuck it. I'm here. I'm not queer, but I'm into it. So, I hope everyone is having a great Sunday morning so far. I think the technical difficulties will be under control. Maybe not. Who fucking knows? We're gonna go on an adventure together. It's gonna be special. Special. Thank you everyone for being here this morning. We yeah, wardrobe change and everything. It's the magic of television. Yeah. Yeah, Space Dragon shirt, Toxic Ruin. Oh yeah. We're going to dive in hard this morning. So, I wanted to take it back and go back to our roots, so to speak. Tear away costume changes. I'll work on that. Maybe for season 5. We'll have every time I change the scene, the costume will also change. That would be pretty dope, wouldn't it? I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But I wanted to take it back. Take it back to what we did at the beginning on this show, which was find little stories that were fun, poke around in there and see what we could find, and have a laugh at the story's expense, but also maybe gain a little bit more understanding into the story. So we're going to do that today with the OG story, the first story in the book, the story of the Garden of Eden, which is actually a stupid name. You shouldn't call it that, because that's not what it's called. But like my Bible stories say, like my fancy pretentious hipsters meals deconstructed. Well, then you're in the right place. So, just right off the bat, Garden of Eden, misnomer. That is a watered down Christians who don't like sexy time name for it. Really, what it should be called is the Garden of Pleasure. Because that's actually how it translates. It is the Garden of Pleasure. But of course, pleasure has a dirty word in many Christian connotations because, pleasure is fun, and Christianity apparently is not about having fun in any way. So, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the garden. What was going down in the garden? What went on in that story? And why it's important to read that story in a different frame. Yes, it is the Garden of Earthly Delights. That's actually closer to what the original translation would be than the Garden of Eden. Fun fact. What I think is important, and you have to read this story a little differently than you would read a lot of other stories. And what I mean by that is, this story was written as a tall tale, as a myth, as a cautionary fable, if you will. And when you read it as such, there's a lot of wonderful insight to be gained. But you have to read it that way. I took a class from Hillsong University. Yeah, they're religious weirdos, but they have really cool online classes. And I took an online class from them about that was actually taught by a professor that is not a Christian. And so that made it really interesting that he works there and that they're cool with it, even though they are a Christian university. And he taught reading the Old Testament through the same lens that you would read Greek tragedies and Greek comedies. And that it is very cool of Hillsong. And they offer a lot of very inexpensive online classes, and their mission is, education. Even like in my time with them in the classes and the interactions with everyone, I made it very clear what my belief system was, and they were totally open and cool. Like they were not judgy at all. So I give them credit. Pat Sajak went there for fun. And it's really interesting when you read those stories through the lens of a classic comedy or a drama like that. and you don't try to read it as a literal story, but just start right off the bat, read everything as a metaphor, it makes a lot more sense. And instead, you actually are able to lean in and enjoy it more. If you don't sit there and try to read it as a science lesson, and you don't try to read it as an actual step by step historical record of how existence came into be, and instead read it as a tale telling you about the morality of life and trying to unlock some of the mysteries that man goes through, it makes so much more sense and it actually becomes so much more palatable. And newsflash, that's what the guys who wrote it were intending on. Nobody wrote this shit as a step by step historical account of the beginning of creation. That was never the intent. They just were making a creation myth because every religion, every culture has one. Oh, Plotless, thank you for trying to tune in. And yeah, the VOD will go up on. It'll be on Twitch, and we'll edit it up a little bit and put it on the old YouTubes. So yeah, it's these were not meant to be read historically, and that is something that if you talk to Jewish scholars, it drives them bananas that so many Christians want to read the Bible literally because that's just not what it's for. It's not ever meant to be read literally. It's not meant to be taken literally, especially the Old Testament. The Old Testament is meant to be read as allegories, metaphors, as tales that you can then teach lessons from. And so I wanted to get that out right off the bat because if you read this story that way, it will make a lot more sense to you. And what we are going to do is we are going to actually read that story. It doesn't take long. But I'm going to read it to you from a translation that you've likely never heard. And it is my favorite translation of the Old Testament. And it really leans into the poetic language, and it also is the most literal translation ever made, even more so than Young's literal translation. It was made a reading riffbow. I feel like that needs to be a t-shirt now. It really, he leans in to the poetic language, makes it so much more fun to read. I think you'll enjoy hearing it, as well as this guy is a world-renowned scholar. He is an atheist, but he loves to read the Bible in poetic ways. But first, before we get into reading that story and deconstructing it a little bit, there's a monkey on my back. There's an elephant in the room. And we need to address it. And this is mainly for the ladies, or the people who consider themselves radical feminists. Let's address it. This story was written by men, and it is misogynistic as fuck. That does not preclude you from being able to gain a lot of interesting insight from the story, but like any other historical document, women are not presented real favorably. In fact, as we'll get to today, they're not even human, according to this text, if you read it the right way. So we're going to get to that. But I just, we don't want to offend anybody. That's not what we're doing here. So, ladies, I apologize. But also, I think we need to address something that ladies love to talk about, especially anybody that would consider themselves a radical feminist. Anytime you mention a Garden of Eden, Lilith comes up. I think we need to address that first, because Lilith is not part of this story. I don't care what your women's lib teacher told you in college. This is not your women's studies, your gender studies teachers that mentioned Lilith. She's not in the story. She's not. So let's bury that hatchet right now, shall we? Shall we? Let's. So today's story is called Gardening is Hard. Because gardening is hard. And apparently it gets really hard. All puns intended there. So, before a certain faction of ladies get angry, Lilith does not exist. Okay? In the Bible story. She's not there. I have had so many people over the years try to convince me that Lilith is there because they misunderstand how the Bible is put together. And they misunderstand a simple little verse, and they take that as proof that Lilith had to be there. She's not. Okay? Let's just break it down real quick. She's not a Bible character. I'm not saying she's not a cool character. I'm not saying the mythology around her isn't interesting. I'm not saying that it doesn't make a certain point about the emancipation of women. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is that if we're talking about a Bible story, and we're talking about Bible characters from the Bible, Lilith just is not one. It's really that simple. Despite what some people will tell you, she is not mentioned in Isaiah. The author is making a metaphor again. In Isaiah, I believe it's chapter 35, there is one time where the original translation, the author refers to the Lilith. And so many people have taken that to mean that he's referring to Lilith. He's not. What he's actually referring to is a screech owl or a night demon. We're not sure what the translation means. What we do know is he's not talking about her. How do we know that? Because she didn't exist yet in any writings. Lilith has been retconned into the Bible. Most people that believe in Lilith and say that she's in the Bible will cite two passages. They will cite that, as we've talked about in other sermons, the creation myth is kind of redundant. There's the first chapter of Genesis where it says, God speaks everything into existence. He said, let there be light, and there was light. He said, let there, be an earth, and there's an earth, and all that. And then it says that he made man and woman in his fashion. Then you get the second creation story that goes through, and it talks the actual story of God taking the clay and breathing into it to create life. And in that one, Eve is taken from Adam's side. And people who really want to believe in Lilith will tell you that, see, there's two different women there. He created man and woman in the first part, and then in the second part, he, creates Eve. So Lilith was the first wife. That's not what's going on there. We'll get to that, but that's not what's going on there. Lilith is like fanfic, okay? Genesis was compiled from 4 major sources, and that is why you get the double creation account. There's the priestly account, there is the Deuteronomical account, there is the Yahwistic account, and there's the, kind of the Elohim account. And when you take those 4 different versions, those were all kind of the competing oral traditions at the time. Depending on what clan you were from, what family, who you grew up listening to, you would have heard slightly different versions of the same stories. And when all those guys got together, as they were being released from exile in Persia, and they were headed back home, they decided to get together, and they needed a history. They needed a way, we've talked about that, that they needed a shared mythology that they could put together so that they could believe in, they could have a shared belief system in order to function and form a government. We've talked about that at length. Well, you see, they all kind of were competing for whose story was going to be the official story. And so that's why you get a lot of redundancies in these Old Testament stories. It's because what they're doing is everybody was competing for space. So one guy's like, hey, this is how my family always told the story, we're putting it in there like that. And somebody else goes, well, that's great, but that's not how we always told it. We always told the story a little differently. And that's why you end up with these redundant accounts. That it's very simple. It's not because there were two different women in that story. It's because the one guy looked at God as this kind of boom microphone that just he speaks and things happen. And the other guy preferred to envision him more as a craftsman who used his hands and made humanity. It doesn't really matter which one you like better. They're both telling the same story. Lilith comes from completely different stories 800 years later. Of course, Genesis was around 550 to 530 is when, BCE is when that was written. Lilith comes around in like at least 400 AD is when the first mentions of Lilith pop up. So she's, again, not a Bible character. And the stories are not kind to her at all. She definitely is not getting the star treatment. She is used to represent every misogynist vanity. She is painted as her great downfall is that she's not subservient to man. And that she is sexually liberated. And that of course means she's amoral, promiscuous, and that she's basically becomes the mother of all demons, and all this other shit is foisted on her, which seems kind of shitty. And it is. But again, she's not a Bible character, she's a tall tale. And where she first really originated was called the Alphabet of Ben Saurash. This is the first text that Lilith makes an appearance in. So I thought we would read this text because I think it's important to point out, a lot of people don't point this out with this text. This text was meant as a satire, and almost every scholar alive today will tell you that this text was intended to be a satire. It's supposed to be funny. It's an absurdist thing. And that's where Lilith first appears, furthering the idea that Lilith is not some character like that. She's a piece of absurdist fiction. Soon afterward, the young son of the king took ill. Said Nebuchadnezzar, "Heal my son. If you don't, I will kill you." Ben Saurash immediately sat down and wrote an amulet with the holy name, and he inscribed on it the angels in charge of medicine by their names, forms, and images, and by their wings, hands, and feet. Nebuchadnezzar looked at the amulet. Who are these? The angels who are in charge of healing, Senoi, Sensenoi, and Semegaloph. While God created Adam, who was alone, he said, "It is not good for man to be alone." He also created a woman from the earth, and as he created Adam himself, he called her Lilith. Adam and Lilith immediately began to fight. She said, "I will not lie below." And he said, "I will not lie beneath you, but only on top, for you are fit only to be in the bottom position, while I am the superior one." They're fighting about sexual positions, if that's not obvious. Lilith wants to go cowgirl. Adam's more missionary position guy. Lilith responded, "We are equal to each other inasmuch as we were both created from the earth." But they would not listen to one another. When Lilith saw this, she pronounced the ineffable name and flew away into the air. Apparently Lilith could fly. That's cool, I guess. Adam stood... Oh, sorry about that, Bale. Yeah, internet is fun today. When Lilith saw this, she pronounced it, she flew away. Adam stood in prayer before his creator, sovereign of the universe. He said, the woman you gave me has run away." At once, the Holy One, blessed be he, sent these 3 angels to bring her back. Said the Holy One to Adam, "If she agrees to come back, what is made is good. If not, she must permit 100 of her children to die every day." Yeah, you didn't miss anything. We went from like nothing to Lilith has hundreds of kids. You didn't miss anything. I don't know where that came from. Neither does anybody else. The angels left God and pursued Lilith, whom they overtook in the midst of the sea, in the mighty waters wherein the Egyptians were destined to drown. They told her God's word, but she did not wish to return. The angels said, "We shall drown you in the sea." "Leave me," she said. "I was created only to cause sickness to infants. If the infant is male, I have dominion over him for 8 days after his birth." The reason I highlighted that in red is I don't know how much you know about Judaism, but the 8th day is when you circumcise a Jewish boy and a female for 20 days. When the angels heard Lilith's word, they insisted she go back, but she swore to them by the name of the living and eternal God, whenever I see you or your names on your forms on an amulet, I will have no power over that infant. She also agreed to have 100 of her children die every day. Accordingly, every day 100 demons perish, and for the same reason we write the angels' names on the amulets of young children. When Lilith sees the names, she remembers her oath, and the child recovers. That's a lot of insanity. But it serves a purpose. It was basically a story to explain why Jews, why they wait till the 8th day to circumcise their child, why they, why they give these little amulets to Jewish children that have the names of the angels written on them. This guy was basically kind of retcon explaining why do we do all this seemingly kind of silly stuff. Well, we do it because we have to protect our kids from Lilith, the demon, the mother of all demons, where she has time to have apparently more than 100 kids every day, since 100 kids die, but yet, we're not running out of demons. Fairly intense. But yet, that's the story. That is the first account of Lilith. It's clearly like goofy fanfic. So, if you want to believe in Lilith, you can believe in Lilith. You can believe whatever you want. We believe in a big fucking space dragon. I'm not shitting on anybody for believing in stuff that's outside the norm. What I'm saying is that Lilith has no biblical background. She's not a Bible character. She's not part of this story. So, I want to take one more second, and before we read the story, we're going to talk about the 2 account thing, because I think it will help a little bit. We're only going to read the 1 account. We don't need the first account. So, let's look at the 2 account thing real quick, because I think it's important. Chapter 1, it comes from a different source. The key difference, one of the key differences, is that the initial account, God is referred to as Elohim. And Elohim, not Yahweh, he speaks things into existence. He says, let there be light, and there's light. He says, let there this happen, that happens. The second account, Yahweh is much more hands-on. This is the guy who fashions things and forms things, and he's walking around on the earth more like a corporeal being, and he's doing his thing. He's creating things with his hands like an artisan. That's important because it shows the duality as to how people looked at God. Some people need their God to be this big, all-powerful guy that just speaks and things happen. And others really prefer a God that's more on their level, that comes down and does things in a way that would make sense to them. He doesn't just use magic. He does, but it's a handcrafted, a more personal God. And both of those are shown in these accounts. The name Adam is a joke. He's very handsy. The name Adam is a joke. A joke that most Christians do not get. Adam is not a name. Adam is not the name of the character in the story. He doesn't have a name. What do I mean? Adam is a play on the Hebrew word Adama, which means from the soil. And so the author used the word Adam as kind of a play on that. The Bible is filled with puns and jokes that go right over the head of anybody who hasn't learned what the original text said, because there's another one in this story that we'll get to. But yeah, Adam is not the guy's name. Adam means human. So it's constantly, you should be reading the text as God said to the human, not God said to Adam. Adam is not his name. He doesn't have a name. He's just a human. He is the human. God breathes life into the human, Adam, and only him. That is a very important distinction between both accounts. Whether using his hands or speaking things into existence, God puts himself into the human. It's very clear when God is creating all the animals, he just creates them. He just makes them. He doesn't, however, breathe life into them. That is reserved for Adam and Adam alone. The human is who gets the breath of life from God into him. That is incredibly important. It if you've ever heard anybody say that like animals don't have souls or whatever, that this is the root of where that belief comes from. Where the root of the belief that man is meant to dominate the earth. Although that's a slight translation error, because man is meant to be the steward of the earth, as we will read in just a second. But that is very key. That God breathes the breath of life into Adam and nobody else. This is not, nobody else gets that true hands-on touch from God, so to speak, that God puts some of himself into you. And you can make that as dirty as you like. So I think it was important to clear that stuff up before we read our story. So now we are going to read our story. And this comes from, we're going to be using this right here. This is Robert Alter, his brilliant translation of the first 5 books of the Bible. That's right, it's the first 5 books of the Bible, and his is that thick. Because he puts, I knew you would make it dirty, Kurt. He puts a lot of love and commentary into this. And so if you have the means to get your hands on a copy of this and you want to read these stories the way they were intended to be read with some very intelligent commentary with them, I cannot recommend it enough. So let's jump to Genesis chapter 2, shall we? Where we will read his version of what's going on here. The heavens and the earth were completed, and all their array. And God completed on the 7th day the task he had done, and he ceased on the 7th day from all the tasks he had done. And God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it, for on it he had ceased from all his tasks that he had created to do. This is the tale of the heavens and the earth when they were created. It reads a lot different than you would read it in a King James, and the fact that it's very repetitive, that is a classic maneuver in ancient writing. It's not done willy-nilly. When they repeat something, it's because it's fucking important. And every time they say it, they're hammering home to you how important it is. On the day the Lord God made the earth and heavens, no shrub of the field being yet on the earth, and no plant of the field yet sprouted. For the Lord God had not caused rain to fall on the earth, and there was no human to till the soil. And wetness would well from the earth to the water and all the surface of the soil. No rain. That's one of the reasons that, the story of the flood is significant, because apparently rain didn't exist yet. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden, to the east, and he placed there the human he had fashioned. And the Lord God we skipped that part. And so, then the Lord God fashioned the humus from the soil, and blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and the human became a living creature. So again, God gets his hands dirty, literally, and he breathes into Adam. Adam now literally has the essence of God inside of him. And the Lord God caused to sprout from the soil every tree lovely to look at and good for food. And the tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now a river runs out of Eden to water the garden, and there splits off into 4 streams. The name of the first is Pishon, the one that winds through the whole of Haliva, where there is gold, and the land is goodly. Bdellium is there, and lapis lazuli. And the name of the second is Gihon, and that river winds through all the land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Tigris, and the one that goes to the east of Asher, and the 4th river is Euphrates. He's describing the Fertile Crescent. Even at that time, these guys knew where life began. Life began in the Fertile Crescent. This guy's making an allusion to that. He's placing Eden in the Fertile Crescent, not in Missouri for the fucking Mormons. It's not in Missouri, you assholes. And the Lord God commanded the humans, saying, From every fruit of the garden you may surely eat, But from the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat it, you are doomed to die. I think it's important to point out here, God just told a lie. As we know from the story, we've all heard this story before, Eve doesn't die when she eats from the tree, and neither does Adam. God is flat out lying here. He's saying if you eat from the trees, you'll die. He's using a common parenting technique that all of us parents have used that, involves tricking your kids and over blowing the danger to make sure they don't do something you don't want them to do. That's what God's doing here. Makes him very human, doesn't it? And the Lord God said, "It is not good for the human to be alone. I shall make him a sustainer beside him." Now, again, let's analyze that for just a second. Everything has been good up to this point, right? The Lord saw the heavens and the earth. He saw that it was good. He made mountains and all this and beasts of the field, all that shit. God made it, and he saw that it was good. All of a sudden, he sees something that is not good. This is the first time God has had an issue with any of this awesome shit he's been making. What is his issue? What is not good? Loneliness. This story, there is a lot in this story about loneliness, the fear of loneliness, and jealousy. And if you don't pick up on those, you're not getting the real story. It's not a creation myth as much as it's a story about the human condition. And notice that Eve is called a sustainer, not a partner. He didn't ask for someone to make him happy. He didn't say a pet. He didn't offer any of those things. He offered a sustainer, someone that would literally sustain him, somebody that Adam can lean on, somebody that will be there to comfort Adam. I think that's important. Again, we addressed the misogyny at the beginning, but clearly you're seeing a definite role defining moment in this text, that the woman's job is to sustain the man. I'm not condoning that or anything, just telling you what it says. And the Lord God fashioned from the soil each beast of the field and each fowl of the heavens, and brought each to the human to see what he would call it. If you don't think that's significant, you're missing something. That is one of the most significant pieces of this story. Notice that God makes all the animals, but he doesn't name them. He has Adam do that. He is inviting Adam to participate in the act of creation. That is incredibly important, because we're going to get to something later that I don't think Christians like getting to. They don't like touching on it, but it's really important that you think about the fact that God is actively including Adam in his creation. He is making these animals, but telling Adam, you decide what it's called. You want to call it that's a goat? You like the word goat? Okay, cool, that's a goat. What is this? This is, an eagle. What is this? This is a bear. You decide, Adam. I want you to be a partner with me in this. That's incredibly important. And the human called names to all the cattle, and to the fowl of the heavens, and the beasts of the field. But for the human, no sustainer beside him was found. Now, again, read this the right way. Put your thinking cap on here. The sustainer wasn't initially supposed to be a person. God was like, I'll just make you one of these things, and it'll be your partner. And he tries all these different animals, and the animals are not sustaining Adam. Adam is not creating that relationship that he needs, that connection that he needs to sustain him. An animal can't do it. The animals are not good enough, but that's going to play into our story later. And so, the Lord God cast a deep slumber on the human, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed over the flesh where it had been. And the Lord God built the rib. Built the rib. Notice, again, it doesn't say he created. He built. This is like straight up, he's hacking. He's biohacking here. God built the rib he had taken from the human into a woman. He brought her to the human. Notice there is a different word used there. He does not say he built another human. And no mention of the breath of life happening. Neither one of those things are mentioned here. Instead, he builds a woman out of the rib and brings the woman to the human. Very specifically different words are used here, implying that the woman isn't human. She's a byproduct. It's fucked up, I know, but it's kind of fun, right? And the human said, "This one at last, bone of my bones," that's not dirty, "and flesh of my flesh, this one shall be called woman, and from man was this one taken. Therefore does a man leave his father and his mother, and cling to his wife, and they become one flesh. And the two of them were naked, the human and his woman, and they were not ashamed." So, again, I think that's really interesting, right? That they're basically explaining why you should cherish your wife, because she is there to sustain you. It's actually kind of a loving sentiment. It's saying that she has to be more important to you than your parents. Because what's the most important role in your life? When you're a child, it's your parents, right? Or your caregiver. Whoever it is that takes care of you, that provides for you, that sustains you. That is the most important. But eventually, it's saying it's time as you get older to find a new sustainer. And that sustainer has to change the hierarchy and now become the most important person to you. Much like God is trying to show Adam what it's like to be God. Because God is Adam's sustainer right now, but he doesn't feel that that's good because Adam needs someone on his level. So he tries all these animals. It doesn't work. The animals, they can't cut the mustard. So he takes part of Adam and fashions it into a sustainer. And Adam, because it comes from him, now is drawn to it. Whereas the beasts of the field, remember, they were just lumps of clay, like Adam, but they never got that breath of life that were fashioned into these animals. And none of them, they weren't life partnering it up for Adam. But then all of a sudden, when it comes from him, there's an instant connection to it. What we're also seeing hinted at here by the author is the idea that your children, you should have a special feeling towards them because they are flesh of your flesh, bone of your bone. There's just a lot of beautiful symbolism here that people who want to read this as a scientific or historical narrative are completely missing. And that's sad. But they're sad, insignificant people, so we ignore them. All right, let's get to the fun part of the story, shall we? Now the serpent was most cunning of all the beasts of the field that the Lord God had made. That's really important. Why is that important? Because remember when we were just talking moments ago that God was trying to find a sustainer for Adam. God was trying to find somebody to be with Adam. Well, if the snake was the most cunning, it would stand to reason that perhaps the snake was who God had intended to be Adam's partner. And that didn't work. It didn't work out. Adam wasn't feeling it. So then the snake would have been rejected in favor of Eve. That would certainly sound like motivation for the snake to try to trick Eve into doing something stupid, don't you think? Like, maybe the snake wasn't the devil. Because there's never anything here in the text to give you that impression. Instead, the snake seems like a spurned lover. A spurned friend. He was supposed to be Adam's sustainer. The snake was supposed to be the one to keep Adam company, to give him somebody to talk to and to befriend. And Adam didn't choose the snake, and so jealousy rears its head. And the snake decides, well, this is your new one, huh? This is who you picked over me? I don't like that. I'm going to mess with her. And he said to the woman, though God said, you shall eat from any tree of the garden. And the woman said to the serpent, from the fruit of the garden's trees we may eat. But from the fruit of the tree in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat it, and you shall not touch it, lest you die. Now, again, remember we talked about God lied. He said, if you eat the tree, you'll die. And that's not true. He was just trying to scare them. Notice that Adam has now upped the ante, apparently, because Eve would have been getting this from Adam. So Adam told her, God said, don't even touch the tree. Don't even touch it. If you touch it, you'll die. And that's an important line because if you look at a lot of classic art, you see Eve standing underneath the tree. The serpent is wrapped around the tree, right? Stands to reason that maybe what the serpent did is, oh, he told you can't touch it? Well, look at this. I'm touching the tree. Everything's fine. Using lies to control people will always backfire. There's another moral here that people are missing. You shall not be doomed to die, the serpent said, for God knows that on the day you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will become as gods, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for eating, and that it was lust to the eyes, and the tree was lovely to look at. It was a sexy tree. And she took the fruit, and she ate. And she also gave to her man, and he ate. And the eyes of the two were opened, and they knew they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves, and made themselves loincloths. And they heard the sound of the Lord walking about in the garden in the evening breeze. And the human and his woman hid from the Lord God in the midst of the trees in the garden. And the Lord God called to the human and said to him, where are you? Obviously, God knows where Adam is. He's giving him a chance to come clean about what happened. And he said, I heard your sound in the garden, and I was afraid, for I was naked, and I hid. And he said, who told you that you were naked? From the tree I commanded you not to eat, have you eaten? Again, he already knows he ate from the tree. He's giving him a chance, though. And the human said, the woman whom you gave by me, she gave me from the tree, and I ate. And a lot of people love to really go at Adam hard here, saying that he's throwing Eve under the bus. You could look at it that way. What I also think you could look at it as, there's nothing in there that says Eve told Adam where she got what she gave him. The text says Eve ate from the fruit and then she gave it to him. It is entirely plausible that Adam ate the fruit from the tree unknowingly, that Eve did it, realized, oh shit, I'm in trouble. I'm taking Adam with me because I don't want to be alone. Again, the fear of loneliness is what causes all of this chaos in here. The fear of rejection causes all of this chaos. And the Lord God said to him, notice God doesn't reprimand Adam here and say, dude, that's on you. He immediately goes to Eve. What is this you have done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I ate. And the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed be you. Of all cattle and all beasts of the fields, on your belly you shall go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. Enmity will I set between you and the woman, between your seed and hers. He will boot your head, and you will bite his heel. A lot of people have tried to say that this is forecasting God. Forecasting Jesus. It is not. They're talking about the eternal struggle between humans and snakes. Humans and snakes have had an aggressive relationship. To the woman he said, I will terribly sharpen your birth pangs, and in pain shall you bear children. And for your man shall be your longing, and he shall rule over you. And to the human he said, because you listened to the voice of your wife and ate from the tree that I commanded you, you shall not eat from it. Cursed be the soil for your sake. With pangs you shall eat from it all the days of your life. Thorn and thistle it will sprout for you, and you shall eat the plants of the fields. But the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread, till you return to the soil. From there you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. And the human called his woman's name Eve, for she was the mother of all that lives. Now, again, there's another little pun there that a lot of people don't get. Eve is a pun just like Adam. Eve is incredibly close to the Aramaic word for serpent. So basically, Adam named Eve after the snake that fucked them over. That's kind of brutal, and it's also kind of awesome. So keep that in mind that, yeah, Eve is not like, oh, the mother of all things. Yeah, she was. But her name is also a shot at her, like, yeah, you dumb bitch, you ruined everything. It's definitely brutal. That is. So that's the other little pun there. But it leads some questions, right? The snake. How is its curse to go on its belly? It's a snake. Most scholars, Hebrew scholars, will tell you that their belief is that the snake was more like, in our mind, like a lizard. Maybe even like an upright walking lizard man. Because remember, he was the most cunning of all the snakes. And the translation there is kind of a pun, again, on the word that they use is used because it rhymes. And so we're led to believe that basically the snake was more human like, and that his punishment was that the snake is completely erased from anything human like. I mean, you look at a snake, it's about as far from a human as you could get, right? No legs, crawls on the belly, has to, basically see with its tongue, all of that. That is basically its punishment. Is the snake wanted to be Adam's sustainer. The snake wanted to be Adam's homie, his partner, and chose to trick Eve when he couldn't get that, when Adam rejected him in favor of Eve. So, what does God do to punish the snake? He makes him as far away from humanity as possible, and furthermore says you will have a lifelong animosity with the humans. You will be at each other's heads for all time because you chose violence. So let's look at a couple other fun things with this. Okay, whoops. So, again, as I said, this is a story about fear, about jealousy, about loneliness. This is not a creation myth. This is about the human condition. The curse worked, didn't it? Why would an all powerful being decide to create life on this rock? Seems like he was lonely. The angels aren't mentioned yet, but we can assume that they existed, as at the end of the story, the angels are, of course, sent to guard the tree of life. So, very similar, it's again, there's a parallel here. Just as Adam, the animals didn't do it for him, he needed somebody of him to sustain him. The angels they're not doing it for El. El needs somebody that's of him. And so that's why he creates Adam. May have been an alternate plan. This is where we get real spicy. The forbidden trees have always troubled Jewish scholars. Why would he put them there? Just to tell the humans not to eat them. And this shows a lot about your worldview, what you feel about this. Because most fire and brimstone Christians don't even want to think about the why of those two trees. It's just, doesn't matter. God put them there and he said not to do it. You should blindly follow. Maybe. Maybe not. Let's think about something. What are the two trees? They're the trees of the knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. And there's a little section here that I think is important to read. Because right after that happens, the Lord God said, "Now that the human has become like one of us, not me, us, knowing good and evil, he may reach out and take as well from the tree of life and live forever. And the Lord God sent from him from Eden to guard the soil which he had been taken. He drove the human to the east and set a cherubim and a flame of the whirling sword to guard the way to the tree of life." So basically, what we're seeing there is that there's a strong implication that God was eventually intending to turn Adam into a god like himself. That he had invited him to participate in creation, he had given him stewardship over the earth, and he had then given him a companion. And he was basically trying to teach Adam how to take care of things, how to prove that he was worthy of the knowledge of good and evil, and then everlasting life. And that if Adam had been allowed to progress through sort of a training, if you will, he would eventually been invited to eat those two trees, and then he would have become an equal to God. And that was what God was looking for. God was trying to create a friend, an equal, another peer. Notice that God says us, which goes back to the idea that El is part of a race of these gods or aliens, whatever you want to go with there, and that they were attempting to create a new one, but it got fucked up. And by Eve eating the tree, some scholars say that Eve wasn't worthy because Eve was Adam's, sustainer, but she was not supposed to be turned into a god herself. So by Eve eating the tree, she messed it up. Other people could say that it was just because they ate it too early and that they weren't ready for that kind of knowledge. And that knowledge that you were unprepared for is very dangerous. That is another moral here. So Eve and Adam took the knowledge without context. They didn't have context, they just had the knowledge, and that caused them to feel shame. Because now they realized they were naked. Even though nakedness was okay, they didn't have the understanding of why it was okay. So they felt shame. Through that shame, as well as their disobedience to the Creator, that was their doom. But yet, I think it's also worth pointing out that there's an act of mercy here. Had he allowed them to eat the tree of life, they would have become immortal. It says so right there in the text. Imagine being immortal and the only other person that you know, the person that you love, God, this person that brought you in and gave you all this, is disgusted by you. And you have to live with that disgust for all eternity. You have to be reminded of your failure for all eternity. Death for Adam and Eve was literally it was an act of mercy. Instead of having to be on God's shit list forever and be looked at as, pieces of shit who had fucked up and couldn't follow a very simple instruction, he allows them to die with the implication that they can at least die on good terms and then be reabsorbed back into him. And so they can achieve that unity with God at some point, instead of being forever separated by their mistake, but by their inability to die. And again, it was up until the human's creation that El continually notes how good everything was. And then when he realizes the human is alone, that's when things are not good. You cannot overstate the significance of that. Whoops. You can't overstate the significance of that. That this is a story about loneliness and about the things people do when they are jealous, when they are lonely, the bad decisions that people make. That is the root of this story. It's not a tale about how the earth came into being. It's not a tale about original sin. It's a tale about what loneliness and, what loneliness does to people. And it's also a tale about forgiveness. That, sometimes you have to make the hard choice. And that God allowing them to die, while that seems like really harsh, that's the only way they can ever get back in his good graces, which is what they want. But they screwed up the plan. The plan was to make them into gods, at least Adam, into a god. But because they jumped the gun, because they went early, because Adam did not do his job, Everybody puts this on Eve. And yes, Eve got duped by the snake. But where was Adam? What was he doing? Why wasn't he keeping an eye on Eve? Why was he letting her hang out with that snake that clearly had some finished business with Adam? What happened in the relationship between Adam and rejecting the snake? Could he have rejected the snake in a way that wouldn't have made the snake go after Eve? These are the kind of thoughts that the Jewish scholars wanted you to have when you read this. This is the dialogue that they wanted you to have when you read this. They wanted you to think about when you see someone lonely, how much that hurts them. That it is the original problem on earth is loneliness. And that making connections to people could have prevented all this. I also think it's just fun. We'll close out with one little thought. Notice that Eve is not surprised at all when the snake starts talking to her. There's no shock. There's nothing taken aback. Not, how the fuck do you know that? You're a snake. The snake starts talking to her, and she just rolls with it. Just has a dialogue with him. She even kind of gets sassy with him, like, hey, that's not what they said. There's some Jewish scholars, I like to think that they're right because it makes it all more fun, that believe that animals could talk to humans up until the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel says that everybody's, communication lines were scrambled. And people always take that to mean that's where the different languages of humanity came from. There's nothing in there that would make it seem that it couldn't have been that up until that point we could talk to the animals too. Certainly would have made Noah's job easier, wouldn't it? If he could go talk to the animals, like, yo, I need two of you in that boat. I need two of you in that boat. Just something to think about. Makes it all a little more fun, if you ask me. So I hope you enjoyed our story time today. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. It's a liberal conspiracy. Talking animals. I hope everybody has a great rest of your Sunday. I hope your weather is better than mine. And reach out to somebody. Make a connection. Because loneliness is truly the real evil in the world. Isolation is what causes sadness. So reach out, make a connection to somebody today, and you will be doing the Lord's work. Literally. So thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you later on in the week. Take care.